We're going to begin programming in the object-oriented paradigm. In this video, we're going to look at classes, methods, and objects. We're going to create a class to start with, and this class is called pet. Now, a class is a blueprint and gives the structure for the methods and attributes. It'll become clearer what a class is as we progress through the sequence of videos. So a class contains methods. So methods represent behaviors, and this is going to be our method here. So greeting here, and it's going to have two parameters as inputs, and it's going to say print hello name. So that's our method there for our class. So a method called greeting and the class called pet. We've got two input parameters, and you'll notice that the methods look a lot like procedures and functions. Very similar. There are subtle differences, but we can talk about those shortly. So that's our class setup. Next, we want to create our object. So an object is a realization of a class, and when we create an object, that's called instantiation. So we're going to create now an object here called Scooby, and that's us created the object. Object's now created from that class, so it has the behaviors of that class. Doesn't have any attributes yet because it doesn't have any attributes in the class, but would do if it did. So we have our class there and our object created from that class called Scooby, and then we can now call that method Scooby, and if we call that method, which is greeting, and then we need to put in a parameter there. So the parameter is going to be just simply Scooby-Doo. That's our parameter there. And if we run this now, just to see if that works, so 3, 2, 1, run it, and it says hello Scooby-Doo as we expected, or I hope you expected that to be output there. Now, just to mention about this parameter here, which I've kind of glossed over so far. Now, this is called the object parameter. And you'll notice I only put a single parameter into the greeting method there, and yet there's two there. Now, this one here is the object parameter, and by convention, we say self call that self in Python. And what essentially we're doing is we're saying that because that's the object parameter self, and because we already specify the object parameter here, we don't need to specify it inside as a parameter that we put in the brackets there. So essentially the parameter here Scooby, because it's there, it doesn't need to be specified inside the brackets. So that's why we have two parameters here, but we only enter in one parameter there. So just a quick recap then. So we created our class. It has a single method called greeting. We created an object called Scooby, and then we call the method greeting at the end there. We've created a class with a single method. We're now going to add an additional method. This one is called Smalltalk. So remember, classes can have as many methods as we want. So we're just going to add another one here, and it's going to contain the following statements. So that's our statements there, and we've got greeting, and then we're just going to now call our Smalltalk method, make sure it all works. And apart from the object parameter has no other parameters, so we leave that empty. So let's run this, and there we go. So it says hello Scooby-Doo, how are you? Fine weather we are having. So that's all good and working so far. Now it might be that we want to call a method from another method. So how do we do that? So what we're going to do is we're going to call the greeting method from within the Smalltalk method. So we do that by specifying self, the method name, and then we need to put in the parameter here, and we're also going to have to pass the parameter into Smalltalk as well, and we'll have to modify. Well, we can get rid of this statement now. Don't need that any longer, although I do need the name of the parameter. So in fact, I'll change that to Smalltalk and then remove that one. And let's just run this to make sure this works, and I'll explain what the self is doing here. So let's run it. So that's all good. That's good. So this self, what this self here means is that we are referring to a method inside of the same class. That's really what we mean by this self here. So as I said, we can have lots of methods within our classes, and we can call other methods and so on. So we have a lot of flexibility there.